Week for Nonprofits. My name is Kat Monahan. I am Director of Nonprofit Sales with Idealist Consulting. If any of you have been attending our webinar series to date, you'll be aware, but we designed this webinar series for the nonprofit fundraising community. Our format has been to review some of the best tools on the market today and to hear best practices and use cases directly from the solution providers themselves. Goal being to educate and empower our nonprofit community to use technology to make smarter fundraising decisions. To do so, we've assembled a group of our most trusted solution partners for the series. Today's webinar will talk about event management with Click and Pledge and will be led by Karen. Before I let Karen take it away and show us event management with Click and Pledge, just a couple of logistical items. If everyone could go ahead and use the questions feature in the GoToWebinar interface to ask questions through the webinar, we'll go ahead and address them at the end. The time for today will likely be somewhere between 45 and 60 minutes. We will absolutely leave time for Q&A there, so please do enter your questions in the questions feature, and I'll save the kind of good, meaty, juicy ones for the end so we can all kind of discuss those, and we'll get to that. As far as audio goes, nobody will need a mic as you're all automatically muted for the sake of keeping things quieter. If we do have an audio issue on the presenter side, we'll address that as publicly and quickly as we can. As far as the slide deck you'll see today and the recording of today's webinar, those will be sent to you all after the webinar and then be available as well to get to. Great. So, quick overview of Idealist Consulting before we get into our content. Idealist Consulting is based in Portland, Oregon, and we are dedicated to providing nonprofits, private sector, and government organizations with advanced technical solutions that help them run more effectively. We're a certified B Corporation and are one of the top-rated consulting firms on the Salesforce App Exchange. Our primary focus is on Salesforce implementations for organizations who fundraise, so this webinar series has been a long time coming. So great. With that, I will turn it over to Karen to get us introduced to Click and Pledge and show us their event management functionality.
Great. Hi, Kat. Thank you so very much for letting us have this opportunity to present our event management product to you. Hello, everyone. My name is Karen Arribiaga, and I am the Marketing Communications Director here at Click and Pledge. So just a little bit about Click and Pledge before we get started. We are a fundraising software and payment processing solutions provider for nonprofit organizations. We were founded in 2002 and have helped over 10,000 nonprofits to date with their fundraising needs. So our goals mainly are to increase your capabilities through all of our tools. We want to make you more efficient and effective in your fundraising efforts. And then lastly, we're also going to lower your costs overall. So to start off, I just kind of like to give everyone an idea of what Click and Pledge is and how we do things, because we do it a little bit differently compared to some of our competitors. What we do is we're going to offer all of our products to you for free and only charge the credit card processing fees associated with online transactions. We do everything from your basic online processing to a mobile platform. We even have our own Swiper One device to do those manual card swipes through your mobile phone. We also have our donor management and our social fundraising. And then, of course, today what we'll go into detail about is our event management piece. This event management piece is a free application for you to use. The way that you sign up for Click and Pledge is that once you register to become a customer, we're actually going to be opening a merchant bank account with our partner bank TransFirst. Through this merchant bank account, that's where you'll actually see those fees are associated with Click and Pledge. What that means to have a merchant account is that we're actually going to direct deposit your donations into your organization's bank account within 48 hours. We're not an aggregate account. We're not going to hold on to those funds for an amount of time and then give them to you later. They're going to go directly into your bank account of your choice. So some of the fees that are involved, we do have one pricing plan. Those fees are the $20 a month charge, and it's 3.5% on all transactions and 35 cents for that processing fee per transaction. We also do e-checks. That's 1.85% and 25 cents per transaction. For credit card processing, we do all major credit cards, including Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and American Express, all for the same price. And so American Express doesn't have a separate charge, which is nice. If you are an Idealist Consultant customer, the great thing about that is that Idealist Consulting is actually one of our preferred partners. And so if you come in through Idealist Consulting, you can actually get Click and Pledge at a reduced rate of 2.95% and 15 cents per transaction. And so if you are an Idealist Consultant customer, definitely look at them on how you can get Click and Pledge at a reduced price. So now that some of our little housekeeping things are taken care of, let's just kind of go over some of those benefits that you're going to get with our event management piece. First, again, it is free for all the Click and Pledge customers. We have a number of customers that use just event management. We have some that just use our online donations, and then we've got some that use all 5 of our product categories. And so this is free for you to use if you're a Click and Pledge customer. Second, it's very customizable. We have really taken consideration that every single nonprofit out there is different, especially when it comes down to how they manage their events. And so we have a lot of different customizable features involved with Click and Pledge. Speaking of those features, there are a lot of them. You'll see as we go through our demo today that you have a lot of different options. Do keep in mind that you don't have to use all of them to use event management. And then lastly, our integration with Salesforce. Our integration with Salesforce is one of the best ones out there. We have taken a lot of steps to make sure that that information is flowing into Salesforce in real time and correctly to make sure we're not creating duplicates for you. And so we'll talk about that as well. So let's just dive into some of those features. The first one is that we do 2 different types of registrations for event management. We handle anonymous registrations and named registrations. Anonymous is going to deal with those individual ticket sales or somebody that just does not need that individual contact information for each individual attendee. Next is that named registration. If you are doing conferences or you're doing classes and you need the contact information for each individual attendee, then you would have a named registration. We also have a lot of options in our registration form. You can have as many registration levels as you wish. We have options for taxes, tax deductible options, additional fees, and so on and so forth that we'll show you. Next, as I mentioned, our events are very customizable. What we've actually done is brought in a designer feature into event management where we can actually create our own event pages and our event layouts. You can either choose between templates that we offer or create your own templates. You bring in your own images, your own text, and so really give people a customized feel. We also have the ability to bring in different widgets. These are going to be those social network widgets, Google Maps, weather, and more, and then you can also see them in a couple of different ways, either by themselves or in tab views. We can also do tickets and name badges. These are going to be sent out as PDFs in emails. Once somebody goes through that registration process, they can bring unique information, have unique QR code information for check-in and check-out, and so on. Also, what we have done, for those that are familiar with Click and Pledge, you may know that we actually have an autoresponder in our donor management application. This autoresponder does work with event management, and it will actually help you automate some of your notifications to your event registrants. For example, if you want to send out custom receipts, custom thank you messages, you can actually do this with this autoresponder. What you would do is create an email in our designer and then set that to be sent out per different parameters. And then lastly, we do event check-in and check-out. We can do event check-in and check-out in 2 ways. We can do it directly in Salesforce in the app, or we can actually do it through our Swiper One mobile application. And so you can download the application, register your phone, and then simply scan QR codes relatively quickly to check people in and out. This check-in and check-out process does have a manual sync button with Salesforce, so at any time during that day, you can sync with Salesforce and get that information. So what I'm going to show you next are going to be 2 examples of some of our organizations that we have, and they're using events in 2 different ways. And so the first one I've got, they're called Vail Jazz. They're out in Vail, Colorado. And what this organization does is they actually host a number of jazz concerts and benefit concerts throughout the year, mostly in the summer months and things like that. And so what they were actually looking for is a platform that actually can support multiple events. You also can take anonymous registrations because they're specifically doing ticket sales. They don't need the contact information for each individual person. And then they also want to be able to have multiple tickets be purchased at one time. So this is actually their event page. This is actually live. If you are in Vail, you can actually register and go to this as we speak. I would like also to be in Vail. And so you can kind of see just you've got your basic event information. They've brought in their own image up here to kind of explain what this event is. They have their event details. They even have an event map widget that they've brought in. And then you even have just their basic event detail area down here. Now, you can tell, and this is why it keeps timing out on me, and so I'll actually close this as once we are finished. But they do have a session expire time. We do track on inventory because we know, especially with some of these ticketed events, you can only have so many inventory or so much inventory available, and so you will have a session expired time on each of your events. For this one, because it is an anonymous event, you will see that their session time is actually really quick, and that's why it keeps on timing out on me. And so you can see that at any time you can do any one of these seatings. You can come over here, you see what that price is, the fee associated with that, how many tickets are included, and then you can just simply type in the quantity that you want. So if I want 6, I could type 6. If I want 16, and then you can select multiple ones and then go through the checkout process here. And so that's how we were able to solve their problem. Now the great thing about this is that they actually have a lot of events that are very similar. And so it actually has the same exact format for all their event pages. We do have a clone feature, so you can clone multiple events, and therefore you don't have to recreate them from scratch each time. So I'm actually going to close this so it doesn't keep pushing me back, and we're going to go to our next example. This is actually an organization called Immigration Equality. And they have an awards banquet every year, and they needed to be able to handle a named registration for each attendee. They also want to be able to do multiple registrations and tickets and have them be purchased at one time. And they also wanted to bring in more information about the event to share with the people that were actually going through that registration process. And so right off the bat, you can tell that this is a completely different setup. The page is actually set a little bit wider. The images are completely different, and including the layout is even different. Because we do have that designer in events, you can really make your template look like anything you want to. You can even bring in your own HTML from your website if you wanted. So we've got their header, we've got that basic information, and we also have that directions widget that they brought in. As I scroll down, you can see that our registration form is a little bit different from the last example I showed you. This registration form, you can see that they have multiple levels, not as many as the last example. But here you can see that they're actually selling multiple tickets per level. So host committee 2 tickets, 4, 6, and so you can see those here. And so this way, if somebody were to register for this event, they would go ahead and click Add, and they could register each individual attendee right here in this event. They would just go through. One of the great things as well is that we do offer custom questions for each individual attendee, and so you can also ask a question. So if you're having an event and you need to know what type of dinner they might be having, or if they're bringing spouses or any other information, you can actually ask individual questions per each attendee. So let me just go ahead and close this. And finish. And now something else that they wanted to do was share more information about the event. So instead of adding that all here and making this look cluttered, what they've chosen to do is use our tab view. And so you can see that they've brought in some different information about the host committees, about their different sponsors, and some of their honorees. And so this is just another way to bring in more information. You can also bring in your YouTube, your, let's say, Twitter and Facebook feeds into these tabs as well. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into our actual demo. To start off, we are located on the App Exchange. You can find us there. When you're going to use event management, you're actually going to use, you actually need to download our other applications first in order to use event management. First, you need to download the class library, followed by the payment solution, which is our donor management application, and really how everything integrates with Salesforce, and then our event management app. The reason why we do this is that we've really taken into account how that information flows into Salesforce. And so we want to make sure that it's going in clean. We're not creating duplicates. So let's go ahead and go into Salesforce. This is just our demo account that we use. And this is event management. Everything that you need to do with event management is going to be located under this one tab. So I'm going to go ahead and click some of our active events. You can see that I have a lot of events here that we could choose. You can have as many as you want. You don't have to have just one, and we're not going to charge for each individual event either. So let's go ahead and choose this one down here. It's the Winter 2014 Fundraiser Dinner. And as this comes up, you'll notice that it's taken its time today. Here we go. You'll notice this time, and if anybody has actually seen Click and Pledge Event Management in the past, you might actually notice that it looks completely different. We actually went through a major overhaul of the system back in December and have created an easier way to actually go through the event management process and the event creation process. And so if you have seen this before, this might look different to you. The first thing you do is when you go to an event, you'll actually see that you've got a dashboard of that event right here. And so you can kind of see how the revenue is coming in. You also have quick reports that you can run, like registrant, attendee, and revenue reports directly from this app. I like this feature personally because I think it's a great way to really see how your event is actually doing. So now let's go to some basic information. And let me hit edit. It's a little easier to see. This is going to be just the basic information that you need to go ahead and set up an event. One thing I do want to point out, and I'm going to go back to the example I had a little bit earlier, and I want you to look at the URL. You'll notice that this is actually a force.com URL. What we do when you go through the post-installation steps for our event management app, we ask that you create a public site URL with Salesforce. And this will allow you to host your pages for free on Salesforce. And so when you actually come into your basic information, you'll actually be looking up that public site URL right here. Next, you've got your event template if you want to have that. Also, we have inventory if you've got that inventory for that whole event. This is also where you would type if it was an anonymous or a named registration. Next, we've got event start, end date, and publish date. Your start and end date will be the actual start and end date of the event, and your publish date is going to be when people can actually start registering for that event. Next, we've got pricing, registration, and level, and so this is where we'll really go into that detail. For this example, I only had 3, but we could see that we could have multiple, and we would just add levels down here if we wanted to. You can customize the name, you can customize the order, and you can also customize the pricing here. Next, if a portion of that is taxed, you have that option. If a portion of that is tax deductible, you can put that in there as well. Next is additional fee. If you have parking fees that you need to cover, a question that we get often is can the actual registrant cover the credit card processing fees associated with this registration level? With this, it can. Because it's going to be a fixed amount and they know exactly what they're going to be paying, you can add that additional fee here. Next is total inventory per level, and then you also have the registrations included per level, so you can have those multiple tickets. So you can see that it's actually something I can't edit now. As soon as you take an event live and somebody registers for that level, you can't change how many registrations are included in that level. And then next you have that registration start and end date. If you're doing early bird registrations and you want to have one start but end by a certain time and have it come off as an option, you can do that. Next, we talk about the actual click and pledge accounts. You can have multiple click and pledge accounts. If you are an organization with a hierarchy with multiple accounts pointing to one instance, we can do that for you as well, and you can also manage that here. So this is where you're going to determine what types of payments you're going to take per that actual event. If you want to take all of the 4 major credit cards, if you want to do e-checks, invoicing, and purchase order, this is where you would actually determine that. So the great thing about this is that you can actually just fill out this basic information and take your event live. All it will do is we'll give you just a little registration bar that we were showing you, that little registration area for people to go ahead and fill out. However, everything that I'm going to show you from here on out is really what makes our event management piece so customizable. So next we're going to go to additional information. We've got everything from who are your event coordinator is to different categories. We even track by campaign. We do get that question a lot, is do you use Salesforce campaigns to track your interaction? We do. You just need to make sure that that campaign name is identical to the one that is set up in Salesforce. We'll track campaign on both the event and the registration level if you want to do a child-parent type campaign. iframe code. This iframe code area here, we will create this for each individual event that you do. And what this will do is it will allow you to bring in that registration area directly into your website if you wish. And so this is an option. If you want to add different agendas, if you want to add your event description, you can do that here. And then, of course, we do have the ability to add additional donations. I had a customer ask me the other day, well, what if somebody comes to my registration page and they can't actually come to the event, but they still want to donate? This is the perfect place for them to do that. You can ask them for an additional contribution, and they can donate to your org. Next is going to be the levels. You can also do inventory tracking for levels, and we also have that campaign area for you to see. Next, let's talk about the different messages. This area will actually handle all of the messages that will ever be seen during the actual event registration process. We'll actually put some defaults in here for you, but you can, of course, come in and change it if you want to. Everything from your sold out messages to your terms and conditions and thank you messages. One thing I do want to point out is this send receipt area here. We actually keep this unchecked. And the reason why is because the majority of the people that are actually using our applications also have automatic auto response emails that are going to be sent out for their actual receipts and thank you letters. And so we want to make sure that we're not sending out too many emails. And so if you don't have autoresponder set up, we highly recommend that you click the send receipt option, and then it will send our basic receipt, which you can customize some of your organization information, thank you messages, and more. The next area I'm going to talk about is discount plans. And so let me go ahead and click New. It's a little easier to see what we can actually do with discount plans. We have a lot of different options. We can pretty much do discounts in 3 different ways. We can do it based off of coupon code. We can do it on start and end date. And then we can also do it on inventory. Let's talk about coupon code first. One of the neat things about coupon codes, we all know that if you type in a coupon code that you have, you can get a certain discount of some sort. Well, we also have the way of using unique coupon codes through our batch upload process. What you can do, let's use the example of memberships. I was actually on the phone with somebody the other day who asked, okay, we offer a discount to all of our members, but we want to make sure that they don't buy multiple tickets using just one coupon code. Well, you can actually upload all of your member number information and create unique coupon codes for each individual member that can only be used once throughout the process. You can do as many as you want. If you want to do 200, you can do 2,000. It's really up to you. And so this is a great way to do that unique information. So for instance, that person I was talking to is actually going to use their membership number to get that discount. Next, start and end date. If you have a specific time period that you want to offer a discount, you can set that here. And then you can also set per inventory. If you just want to do 200 at 20% discount, you can set that as well. You can also do them in a combination of them together. For instance, let's pretend the month of February you want to give a 20% discount for the whole month. However, you only want to offer 200 of them. You can actually set both of these to 1 to 200, and this for the month of February. And no matter what ends first, whether the month of February comes and ends or the inventory is sold out, it'll automatically take that offer off the table. And so that is just some of the automated process that you can actually do. Next, and this is going to be one of the more detailed areas that we'll talk about today, is the designer feature. The designer is going to be really where you're going to customize how people interact with your events and how people view your event. And so the first thing we're going to talk about is that actual registration form. One thing that we do in Click and Pledge is that we do contact field mapping. And so if you wanted to name these different contact fields something else for your events, say if you want to say husband first name, husband last name, but then still have that go into the contact fields in Salesforce, you can do custom field mapping through this. We also have custom questions, as I kind of mentioned when we were showing you the demo. You can have custom questions that apply to all registration levels or a few individual ones or just one. It's really up to you. You can set that here. You also have a couple of different answer types that you can choose. You can do just basic text boxes, text areas, radio buttons, check boxes, or select lists. And so you really have a lot of different options here. Next, we're going to talk about widgets. Widgets, again, are going to be those social network links, the maps, the weather, things like that. The great thing about the widgets is that once you create it once, you don't have to create it again for each individual event page that you create. You can actually share it across many. So in that Vail Jazz description, or in that Vail Jazz example, the cool thing was is that they had one widget, and that page is actually duplicated probably 20 different times on their website. And so you actually use the same exact page, just with changing the information a little bit through our cloning feature. Next, we're going to actually dig into how the site itself will look. So let me go ahead and click New and show you how this designer works. Now, this same type of designer, you'll notice, especially if you look into Click and Pledge More, we'll bring it up a lot because we actually have it in event management and donor management. And this gives you the ability to actually create the different templates that you'll use for either emails, receipts, events, or tickets and name badges. And so what we do, we can do a couple of different things. For event management, we actually offer templates. And so you can actually come here and choose different templates that you can choose from. We actually host these templates on Amazon. The reason why we do that is so you don't have to re-upload the application in case these templates change. If you don't like any of our templates that we have to offer, that's fine. Our feelings aren't hurt. You can actually create your own. You would just click this custom button up here and go to Template Builder. And this is actually going to take you to our Template Builder where you can go ahead and create your different event page layouts. So if you wanted to have a big banner up here, if you wanted to bring in some, look here, sometimes if I double click too fast on GoToMeeting, it messes up a little bit, so pardon me. But you'll actually be able to go through this actual template builder and create that template that you want. And so then from here, all I do is click Next. And that's going to take me to our actual builder and designer where I can actually bring in my own images. I can also bring in my different merge fields. You would actually come over here to registration form and then put that in and really develop the page that you want to show on event management. And of course, you can preview it and see what it looks like. But this is how you would actually do that. A question that we often get and we're quite excited about is, can I bring my own HTML for my website into this designer? Absolutely. In this area up here, you can see that we've actually even brought in custom CSS for you to enter as well. And so this is a great way. We highly recommend to all of our customers that they customize their pages because we really want to give that registrant and that attendee that confidence to make sure that they're giving to the right organization. All right. Next, we do those tickets and name badges. Again, those tickets and name badges, it's going to work very similar to that designer. We're going to offer you templates that you can choose from, or you can create your own. And so these are just some of the tickets that we have available for you to use. One of the cool things about this is that you will be able to bring in that unique identification information like first name, last name, if you want to bring in Twitter handles, if you want to bring in custom QR codes so you can do check-in and check-out. You can do all of this through those tickets and name badges. Speaking about check-in and check-out, that's the next thing that we have on our list. We do handle this in two ways. This is how you can do it in Salesforce. You'll have a list of everybody that is going to attend your event. You can just simply come up to search, type in the person's name, and then find them and then check them in or check them out. Real simple. However, if you're not going to have your computer set up and you want to use that swiper device, you can also do that. What we do ask is that each person that uses Swiper does have to have an individual login, and so if you have volunteers, say you have 50 volunteers on an event to do check-in, each of them will need to be able to log into a Click and Pledge account through the Swiper app and then actually grant access to do that event management piece and that check-in and check-out piece. So next thing I'm going to chat about, we do have a box office feature. This is to handle those manual payments. If you have somebody that's in front of you that has cash, or you have check in hand, or if you have somebody on the phone, and they just don't want to do the process themselves, you can do the manual check or manual process for them. You would just come fill out their information and then go through the process and finish out the payment. You would just fill out your information, and so you can also do that custom payment type. If you do multiple events, we do have event listing pages for you to use. You can just come over here and create one of those pages. Again, it's going to work pretty much the same way. You would create that page in the designer and then share that on your website. So now I'm going to actually talk to you a little bit about how this information will actually flow into Salesforce. Keep in mind, this is actually how all of the information that you'll get with Click and Pledge will flow into Salesforce. So whether you're using event management, our virtual terminals, our donation pages, Swiper One, whatever, this is how all of that information goes in. And so first, we do create some things by default. When you download Click and Pledge for the first time, we are going to have some default settings. If you want to change them, there are different options to change it. But by default, we will create a contact, an account. We will create an opportunity. We also create a custom object called a CMP transaction, and then we'll also bring in all of that event information. And then, of course, you've got some optional things. We can also do the campaigns, SKUs, custom questions, and some more things too. All right. And now this is how we do our contact matching, and this is something that really kind of pushes us or separates us from others. And this is how we just make sure that we're not going to have those duplicates coming into the system. Every time an event contact comes in, whether or not they're a registrant or they're an attendee, we're going to check three things. We're going to check based on first name, last name, and email. In the event that all three of those parameters match exactly, we'll just simply put that transaction record and that event information underneath that contact record. Simple. Now, let's pretend that one, two, or all three of them are different. If even one of those parameters is different, what we'll do is we'll actually put that contact information into an area called temporary contacts, where you as an organization can go in and determine if that's a contact in the system or not. For example, if it's a new contact, then you simply click the new contact button and it will automatically create a new contact. However, we do have situations where, let's pretend a Jonathan who is in your system as Jonathan, the next time he donates to you, he uses the name John, or he uses a different email address. But you know your organization that that's the exact same person. We're actually going to allow you to create a contact alias for John. And so that actual information, whether it's a new email address or his nickname, will get associated with his contact record in Salesforce. When that happens, and let me actually go into Salesforce and show you what this looks like. We're going to go to Homer Simpson's record. We have a lot of aliases set up for him. What happens is that we'll create that alias for him. Let me scroll down. Right here, and so I'm going to go to his list of aliases. And so what will happen is that each time he comes in as somebody different, you're going to associate this with the contact record. So the next time he comes in using that different email address or that different name, it will automatically post to that contact record. So in a sense, your system is going to grow smarter the more aliases you create for your different contacts. And so it's just one of those differences that Click and Pledge does to make sure we're not creating those duplicates. A lot of people who say they integrate with Salesforce, what actually happens is that if they don't match on those certain parameters that they set up, it will automatically create another contact, and that's how you get those duplicates in Salesforce. All right, well, that brings me to some of the best practices that we have with event management. And this is just based on some of the conversations that we've actually had with our customers and some of the newer people that have been coming in. I would say the first best practice for our event management, or really any event management, whether you use Click and Pledge or any other event management software out there, the first one I would say is really look at your process and simplify. We have a lot of situations where people have come in using an older system. Sometimes it's a PDF file that they have people fill out and return. And when you're transitioning from, say, a paper type of registration to an online registration, it's a really great time to really evaluate the way that you ask for that information. There are a lot of solutions out there, and sometimes they just handle things a little bit different than the way that you've handled them in the past. And so it's a great way to simplify your process and also keep an open mind on how to actually handle your event registration. The second best practice I would say is to make sure you customize your event. You will get instant credibility with your registrants and your attendees just by customizing your event. Bring in your logos. Make sure you're bringing in all of that brand so they recognize who they're dealing with through that process. And so this will really give you and give them more of a trust for your organization because they'll see it throughout the process. Third, make sure that you evaluate and prepare your Salesforce integration. Make sure you know how those contacts are going to be coming in, if you need to be looking out for duplicates, if you need to be looking out for temporary contacts if you're using Click and Pledge. And that way you can just be aware of how that information is flowing in. Next, we also recommend that you automate your notifications. You can use a feature like Broadcaster, Autoresponder. We also have a broadcaster in the system, but that's a different webinar. You use the Autoresponder to make sure you're reaching out to those attendees and responding to them in a great way. Going back to the customizing your event part, this is by automating those notifications and using the designer to create those emails and custom receipts. This is a great way for people to see that it is your receipt that they're receiving. If you have your logo at the top because you customized that receipt, they're going to be able to go back to that and know that is for your organization. And so it's just another way to build that trust. And last, and I think this is probably the most important thing, is to make sure that you test and practice your events. With some of these events, especially because some of them can be as easy as just taking registrations to as complicated as doing a whole entire conference on one of these event pages. Make sure that you practice. Make sure you know how that information is going to flow in through that process. Because there are time restrictions on the registration process, you want to make sure that people can actually go through that registration in the time that you allotted for them. Another thing to keep in mind, especially if you're using Swiper 1, is to make sure that you want to practice doing the check-in and check-out before you get to the event to make sure that it is all set up correctly. All right, and there's a couple of other things before we go to Q&A. If you ever have any questions for us beyond what you're going to ask me here shortly, you can always come and get more information about Click and Pledge by coming to one of our webinars. If you are interested in our donor management feature, we actually are having a webinar in 20 minutes about that, and so you can always come to that or just get a general overview as well. And then also we do offer a couple of different support features. One that is brand spanking new that we came out with on April 1st is our live support Q&A. For those of you who are familiar with Click and Pledge, we used to call this office hours. We offer it from 3:30 to 4:30 every day. You can actually come on and ask your questions to our team and we'll answer them right there in this webinar setting. And so it's a great way to get some real one-on-one type time with our support team. We also have a number of how-to articles and knowledge-based articles. We also do free ticketing and email support. We're also on the Power of Us Hub. If you ever need any questions, you can post it there. And then we also offer Premier support, which is a paid support if you ever need somebody to create your events for you or actually go through the actual and download your applications for you. We can do that as well. So lots of different options. And so now I will invite Kat back on and we can start going through some of these questions.
Great, thanks Karen. Awesome overview. So one question that popped out I think is a really good one. Can you have an event that is private so that only those who are invited can register to attend? And I wonder if there's any correlation between this functionality and the kind of membership number verification process you mentioned, but I'd love to talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Well, I think there's a couple ways you can do it. Obviously, you don't have to take your event public by posting it somewhere. For example, like if you want to just have an event page that you send out through email that people can register for, you can do that. And not ever, let's say, post it on your website or post it on certain things. You can absolutely do that. You can also do, like Kat mentioned, those coupon codes like for memberships. So even if you had it, even if you had the event public on your site and you just wanted a certain number of people to actually register through that coupon code, you can do that as well.
Cool, thank you. Helpful. That's fairly common question I get from folks. A couple of other kind of technical things. For Swiper 1, does that work on all mobile devices?
It does work on Android devices and Apple devices. We actually have a list of the exactly which ones have been tested and approved on our forum if you ever need to reference that.
Great.
However, like I use a Note 2. We have Samsung here in our office. We've got Apple products in our office. We actually do a very involved testing process when we actually get those in to make sure that they are compatible with a number of different devices. And so we can always reference that as well. In fact, I see that my buddy Kami has actually joined us. He is our CEO, and I bet you if we ask him nicely, he'll actually give us that link on the forum to those the actual list of devices it works on. So hopefully we'll have that link to you shortly.
Thanks, Kami. I see him there. He's in the chat. Great. So then one other thing I wondered was about automated notifications. For receipting or whatever. Do you guys use particular solutions, or are there multiple solutions folks can use? Sometimes I get that question of utilizing multiple apps. I wondered what you guys integrate with.
Well, for the autoresponder, the way that the autoresponder works is that you don't need a separate app to use the autoresponder. We're actually using the email power within Salesforce to send out that autoresponse email. Now, one thing we have separate from that is our broadcaster feature. Now the broadcaster feature, and again, if you want more details about this, you can come to our donor management, or if we ever do one with Idealist, you can come to that as well. The broadcaster feature is a mass emailing feature that we have in our donor management app, and it's actually an integration with MailChimp. In fact, I'm also happy to announce that I guess we're going to be releasing it on Monday. We're actually going to have an integration with predictive response as well. And so you'll be able to use either of those mass emailing options to do our broadcaster. And what that broadcaster will actually do, it'll allow you to run reports directly in Click and Pledge, send them out through MailChimp, and then we'll actually collect all of the data through MailChimp or predictive response and put it right back with that contact information in Salesforce for you. So open rates, if they've asked not to be emailed anymore, so on and so forth.
Awesome. There was another question on this kind of topic. Are there any plans for Click and Pledge to integrate with ExactTarget?
ExactTarget, I don't believe so. And Kami, if you want to talk about that, if you want to go on, you are more than welcome to. Go ahead.
Sure. Good afternoon. I'm not sure. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. The ExactTarget, we researched it quite a bit, and I don't know if their pricing has changed recently, but it's typically been outside the range of what our customers are comfortable with paying. I don't know, Kat, has the price changed? They used to be pretty expensive.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. Depending on use cases, and with ExactTarget, they custom price based on a particular user's, use, I guess. So it's hard to kind of know what list would be. But I've seen a lot of different things, but it can be hard to anticipate for sure because there's a lot of functionality within ExactTarget. But it makes sense.
But with the new scenario, with this new integration that we will be announcing on Monday, actually, Karen, you have coupons you can share with Kat with the discount for ExactTarget because not ExactTarget, predictive response. Yes. So that's something if you wish to consider predictive response. There is a lot of stuff that we have done jointly with predictive response. The next week release will be really nice, and the combination of the two can really do a lot of good stuff. So.
Cool. Well, great. Well, I think that covers the questions we had for now. So if anyone else has any questions, feel free to shout those out as we're wrapping up. Otherwise, Kami, thank you so much for joining us today and jumping in to give us some additional information. Big thanks to Karen. We really, really appreciate you taking the time to overview events with Click and Pledge for us. For everybody else, we will be sending the slide deck out shortly to all registrants, so you'll have that for reference. As Karen said, Click and Pledge is extremely available for questions and support, so those pages and links to those pages will be in the slide deck. Also, if you guys want to reach out to them directly, and of course, you're welcome to reach out to us at Idealist Consulting as well if you have any questions. And as we're wrapping up, don't forget to register for our final webinar in the series, which is on April 30th, Soliciting Major Donors with Wealth Engine. And you can do that at idealistconsulting.com/webinars. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. We really appreciate it. Please have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Kat.
Thanks.